All right, number 3 of the diagnostic. List any vertical or horizontal asymptotes if they exist for the following function. And then just like the previous problem, we've got a trinomial divided by a trinomial. So we're still going to be factoring, we'll still be canceling, so everything like number 2 is the same, except for what we're looking for is slightly different. We're looking for the vertical asymptote and the horizontal asymptote. The way that we find those is we take, for the vertical asymptote, we take the denominator and set it equal to 0 and then solve for x. But that's not going to include any holes. Holes are factors that cancel out, and we're going to see that in a sec. The horizontal asymptote, if the top and the bottom have equal degrees, that means the exponents, the highest exponents are the same, 2 and 2, that's equal, right? If the degrees are the same, we divide the leading coefficients. What a leading coefficient is, it's the number at the front of the polynomial when it's in standard form. So in this case, 4, and if it's not written, it's 1. Okay, so that one's easy. We're going to do the hard part first, which is finding the vertical asymptote. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to factor the top and the bottom. Just like the previous problem, trinomials are going to factor into 2 binomials. Okay. The bottom looks far easier. Remember how this works. Since x times x is x squared, when we use our hippity-hoppity distributive property, that means the x's are going to be at the front. We can't say the exact same thing for the top because this is 4x squared. We'll get to that in a sec. But on the bottom, we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to make negative 24 and add to make 5. Since they're going to multiply and make a negative number, that means one of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative, and the numbers that pop into my mind are going to be positive 8 and negative 3. Now, if numbers don't pop into your mind, you're going to have to make a list. I'm going to have to make a list for the top one, but if you have to make a list for the bottom one too, that's perfectly fine. Now, I set the denominator equal to 0, so if I had x plus 8 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0, that's going to give me 2 asymptotes, but I'm not quite there yet because I have to see if either of these cancel out. Because if they cancel out, they're not going to be considered part of the asymptotes. They're going to be one of the holes, okay? So I got to factor the top. In order to factor the top, this is one of the more difficult factoring problems. The a value is greater than 1, so we can't just do the 57-7 trick. We've got to start by multiplying the a value, the 4, times the c value, the 57, and then we'll factor that trinomial. So let me just go ahead and write that over here. Okay, 4 times negative 57, you're going to find is negative 228. Okay, so we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to make negative 228 and add to make 7. One will be positive, one will be negative, since we're multiplying to make a negative number. I know the larger number is going to be positive. Let's come up with a list. 228 is 1 times 228, 2 times 114, 3 times 76, 4 times 57. 5 doesn't go in. 6 will go in 38 times. 7 does not go in. 8 does not go in. 9 won't go in. 10 doesn't go in. 11 does not go in. 12 does, because 12 goes into 22 one time with 108 left over, so 19. And there we go. So the larger number is positive, the smaller number is negative. So the numbers that add up to positive 7 are going to be negative 12 and 19. But this is the factored form of this trinomial. In order to make it the factored form of the original trinomial, we started by multiplying this number by 4. We got to finish by dividing both of these numbers by 4. If the number simplifies, we simplify it. Like 12 over 4 is just 3, so this is x minus 3. If it doesn't simplify, you put the denominator in front of the x. So this is 4x plus 19, and this is the factored form. If my program starts glitching out, it's going to be really annoying. Just power through. The longer the video gets, the more it glitches, so forgive me. Okay, so we have the factored form. The whole is going to be right here at x minus 3 or x equals 3 because these cancel out. So when we look at the only thing that's left, we have x plus 8, and we set this equal to 0. We find that x is equal to negative 8, and this is going to be our horizontal asymptote, okay? So that's the first part of our answer. The second part of our answer, the VA, is actually very easy. That's it. That one is the VA. My bad. Sorry. The x is equal to the vertical asymptote. Y is equal to the horizontal asymptote. And the way that we find that is just by dividing the leading coefficients. The leading coefficient is 4 and 1. As we said earlier, 4 divided by 1 is 4. So there is our horizontal asymptote. And this is the answer to question 3.